The story begins with Dill, the main character, who owns a boat and loves to fish. He lives on Plymouth Island and earns money by taking tourists on fishing trips. He sets up the rods, and the tourists enjoy catching fish, for which they pay Dill. One day, Dill is out with two tourists who have paid for a fishing trip. However, when a fish approaches, Dill refuses to give them the rod. He has been trying to catch a specific fish for a long time, and he thinks this might be his chance. The tourists get angry, but Dill silences them with a knife. Unfortunately, despite his efforts, he doesn't catch the tuna. He has to return the money to the tourists, which isn't a big deal for him, but he's disappointed because he needed the money to pay for his daughter's university fees. He promises his partner Duke that he will get the money. He visits his friend Diana, who gives him some money. While spending time with her, Dill asks about her son, who also loves boats and fishing. Dill wants Duke to leave so he can find a better-paying job. He then goes to a bar, where the bartender reveals that everyone on the island knows everything about each other. The bartender mentions that Dill has tried to catch the fish 4 times and suggests he give it a name. Dill names it Justice. That night, Dill gives Duke the money and tells him they will go out to sea again the next day. Duke asks how many clients they have, and Dill says they will go alone because he is determined to catch the fish. Duke doesn't think this is a good idea, as it will cost them money. At home that night, Dill remembers his son, who lives with his ex-wife after their divorce. His son also loves fishing, just like him. The next day, he and Duke go out to sea, but they don't catch the fish. Dill is very disappointed. Back on land, Dill blames Duke for their bad luck, saying that things have been bad since Duke's wife died. Duke is hurt and leaves. Dill did this intentionally, so Duke would find other work. At the bar, the bartender advises Dill to give up on catching the fish, but Dill refuses. Then, Dill's ex-wife, Karen, arrives. Dill knows she's there for a reason. He takes her to his boat, and she reveals that she needs his help. They discuss Dill's past in the army and Karen's marriage to Frank, a wealthy but abusive man. Karen tells Dill that their son, Patrick, is withdrawn and spends all his time playing computer games to avoid hearing Frank's abuse. Karen asks Dill to kill Frank and offers him $10 million. Dill refuses. After Karen leaves, a man in a suit arrives, having been looking for Dill for days. The next morning, Dill hears his son's voice and briefly sees his face while swimming. Meanwhile, they hear Frank and Karen arguing. Patrick is shown in his room, suggesting a connection between father and son. Frank arrives at the hotel where Karen is staying and terrorizes her. The next day, Dill goes to a local shop where the woman working there tells him about Frank's abuse of Karen. Dill leaves without saying anything. He returns to his boat and finds Frank waiting for him with Karen. Frank insists that Dill take him fishing, offering him a large sum of money. Dill initially refuses, but Frank pressures him. The man in the suit appears again, but Dill ignores him. The man looks at his watch and says he's 20 seconds late, implying something is wrong. Later, Dill goes to sell fish, where Carlos tells him someone was looking for him. Dill is uninterested. He then goes to return Diana's lost cat. Diana tells him she heard Karen asked for his help and encourages him to help her. Duke then arrives and tells Dill to accept Frank's offer so he can pay his granddaughter's fees. Dill agrees to help Duke. Karen meets Dill again, and he insists he will only take Frank fishing, not kill him. Karen says Frank will kill her and Patrick if he doesn't. She implies that Patrick is also communicating with Dill through the game. Dill doesn't respond. Duke overhears their conversation and asks Dill if he knows them. Dill reveals that Karen is his ex-wife and tells Duke about his past. Duke advises him not to kill anyone. That night, Dill agrees to kill Frank for the money. When he returns home, the man in the suit is waiting for him with a device that can catch the tuna. The man says, "These are the rules of the game, and I am the rules." Dill is suspicious and demands to know who he is. The man, named Reed, reveals that everything is a game and that no one is supposed to die. Dill is a character, and his goal is to catch the tuna. Reed says the game has been glitching recently, implying that the game's creator wants Dill to kill Frank, despite the rules. Dill doesn't believe him, but he has always been suspicious of the island and has no memory of arriving there. The audience learns that Patrick, Dill's son, likely designed the game. Reed tells Dill that the game is Patrick's dream to be with his father and to punish his abusive stepfather. The next morning, Dill realizes he can't wake up before his alarm, further suggesting he's in a game. He tries to remember how he got to the island, but can't. He drives away and starts talking to himself, realizing it's all not real. Diana's son, Samson, appears and offers to work with him. Dill laughs and says the game is giving him everything he asked for. Dill tries to get answers from the store owner, but he avoids his questions. Dill calls to confirm Reed's existence. He goes to the bar, but the bartender tells him to go fishing, implying the game wants him to avoid killing Frank. Meanwhile, Karen finds Frank injured in the bathroom. Duke had paid some men to beat him up so he wouldn't go on the fishing trip. Duke tells Dill he did what he thought was right, angering Dill. Despite his injuries, Frank insists on going fishing. Reed meets Dill, who is confused about his purpose. Reed says they are all part of someone's dream, and only the creator knows the truth. Dill realizes it's Patrick, a boy in a dark room watching them. His stepfather abuses his mother, and Patrick created the game to bring back his real father and punish his stepfather. He wants Dill to deliver justice. Reed says if that's what the creator wants, he will break the game's rules. Karen takes Frank to the boat, and Dill rushes to his own boat. Patrick created the game to spend time with his father, but as the abuse worsened, he wanted revenge. He wanted a sign that killing Frank was justified, so he gave Dill free will in the game. Dill takes Frank out to sea. Frank is already in bad shape and drugged by Karen. They discover Samson is also on the boat. Eventually, Dill puts the rod in Frank's hand, and a shark pulls him into the sea, killing him. In the real world, Patrick kills Frank. Patrick is then placed in a mental hospital. In the game, Karen says goodbye to Dill, but on the condition that he adopts Patrick. Karen disappears, and Dill receives a call from Patrick, who says he did something wrong. Dill reassures him that he did what he had to do. Patrick says he will change the game so they can meet. Dill says he will wait for him. The scene changes, and Patrick is in the game, running towards Dill. They embrace, finally together in the game. The film ends there. The story highlights the love between a father and the pain of those who have lost their fathers.